They wear smiles like carefully crafted masks, speaking in honeyed tones that drip with calculated sweetness. They mirror your values with surgical precision, praise your achievements with rehearsed enthusiasm, and celebrate your victories with hollow applause. But the moment your back is turned, the mask slips, revealing the predator that was always lurking beneath. These are not friends. These are emotional parasites cloaked in courtesy, psychological vampires dressed in the costume of companionship. And Machiavelli, the master of brutal human insight, warned us about them centuries ago. Not with kindness, not with hope, but with fire, suspicion, and surgical clarity that cuts through deception like a blade through silk. In the treacherous realm of power, loyalty is not given freely. It's weaponized, calculated, and deployed with devastating precision. The wrong friend standing beside you is infinitely more dangerous than 10 enemies positioned in front of you. Because enemies at least have the decency to declare their intentions. They wear their hostility openly, allowing you to prepare your defenses. But false friends, they operate in shadows, wielding your trust like a dagger aimed at your heart. Machiavelli understood a truth that most people spend their entire lives refusing to acknowledge. The majority of human beings don't love you, they love what you provide. They're drawn to your status, your security, your resources, or simply the sense of superiority they feel when standing next to your accomplishments. They don't see you as a person, they see you as a utility, a tool to be used until it breaks or becomes obsolete. The moment that benefit fades, the instant you stop serving their needs or feeding their ego, their loyalty evaporates like morning mist. And if you allow these parasites to remain in your inner circle, you won't be destroyed by external enemies launching obvious attacks. You'll be sabotaged from within by those who swore allegiance with hollow hearts and poisoned tongues. Most people ally themselves out of necessity, not sincerity. They calculate the cost-benefit ratio of every relationship, every conversation, every gesture of support. When the scales tip against them, when your friendship becomes more burden than benefit, they don't simply leave, they destroy. They turn your secrets into weapons, your vulnerabilities into ammunition, and your trust into the very rope they use to hang you. This is why you must learn to identify and eliminate the 5 types of toxic friends that Machiavelli would recognize immediately. Not tomorrow, not after giving them one more chance, not after a heartfelt conversation where they promise to change. Now, today, with the cold precision of a surgeon removing a tumor before it metastasizes and kills the patient. 1. The silent competitor. They present themselves as your most devoted supporter, your biggest cheerleader, your most trusted confidant. Yet something always feels wrong, like a discordant note in an otherwise perfect symphony. Their compliments arrive with subtle delays, their congratulations feel rehearsed, and their enthusiasm dims whenever your light shines brightest. You'll notice them retreat into uncomfortable silence when you share good news, like vampires recoiling from sunlight. Their smiles become forced, their responses clipped, their energy suddenly drained. They act like candles that dim in the presence of a brighter flame, unable to maintain their glow when faced with superior illumination. These people don't hate you in the traditional sense, they envy you with a passion that borders on obsession. And envy, as Machiavelli knew, is perhaps the most dangerous emotion because it grows in darkness, feeding on comparison and festering in silence. It transforms admiration into resentment, respect into sabotage, and friendship into a carefully orchestrated campaign of psychological warfare. The silent competitor studies your every move, not to learn from your success, but to understand how to undermine it. They memorize your strategies so they can steal them, analyze your weaknesses so they can exploit them, and catalog your fears so they can weaponize them when the moment is right. They engage in subtle sabotage that's almost impossible to detect, manipulating conversations to downplay your influence, steering opportunities away from you with seemingly innocent suggestions, planting seeds of doubt about your capabilities in the minds of mutual acquaintances, and quietly celebrating your failures while publicly offering hollow condolences. Machiavelli would say, if someone praises you when you fall and grows quiet when you rise, they are not a friend. They are a predator waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Watch for the warning signs. Compliments that feel backhanded, enthusiasm that seems manufactured, sudden unavailability during your moments of triumph, and conversations that somehow always redirect focus away from your achievements. They ask probing questions not out of genuine interest, but to gather intelligence they can use against you later. The silent competitor is particularly dangerous because they maintain plausible deniability. Their sabotage is so subtle, so carefully executed that you'll question your own perceptions. You'll wonder if you're being paranoid, if you're imagining their hostility, if their behavior is really as malicious as it seems. This self-doubt is exactly what they're counting on. It keeps you vulnerable and accessible while they systematically dismantle your success from within. 2. The perpetual victim. They arrive at your doorstep like refugees from an endless war, carrying tales of woe and dragging clouds of drama behind them wherever they go. Always needing rescue, always requiring your time, energy, and emotional bandwidth. Always positioning themselves as the wounded party in every scenario they encounter. These emotional vampires have perfected the dark art of manipulation through vulnerability. They've discovered that people have a natural instinct to help those who appear helpless, and they exploit this instinct with ruthless efficiency. They make you feel guilty for their unhappiness, responsible for their failures, and obligated to fix problems they themselves created. But here's Machiavelli's chilling warning. Pity is a leash, and the pitied are its masters. The perpetual victim operates through a sophisticated system of emotional blackmail. They train you to drop everything when they call, to prioritize their crises over your own goals, to feel selfish for having needs of your own. They weave intricate webs of dependency where you become convinced that your worth is measured by your willingness to sacrifice for their comfort. They drain your strength under the guise of vulnerability, making you feel noble and compassionate for carrying their endless burdens. But while you exhaust yourself solving their manufactured crises, managing their emotional storms, and cleaning up their self-created disasters, no one is carrying yours. In their universe, your needs are always secondary, your problems always smaller, your pain always less valid than theirs. These people have an uncanny ability to escalate situations whenever you try to establish boundaries. The moment you suggest they take responsibility for their own life, they interpret it as abandonment. When you express your own needs, they transform it into an attack on their character. If you dare to prioritize your own goals, they paint you as selfish and uncaring. They're master storytellers, crafting narratives where they're always the innocent victim, and everyone else, employers, family members, friends, romantic partners, are the villains. They never see patterns in their own behavior, never acknowledge their role in creating their problems, never take accountability for the chaos that seems to follow them everywhere. The most insidious aspect of the perpetual victim is how they make their dependency feel like love. They convince you that their constant need for rescue is proof of how much they trust you, how special your relationship is, how irreplaceable you are in their life. But this isn't love, it's exploitation dressed up in the language of intimacy. While you grow weaker from the constant emotional drainage, they grow more comfortable in their helplessness. They learn to weaponize their vulnerability, using tears as ammunition and breakdowns as bargaining chips. When you finally reach your breaking point and can no longer sustain their endless demands, they won't thank you for your years of sacrifice. They'll blame you for not being enough, for abandoning them in their hour of need, for proving that you were never really their friend at all. 3. The shapeshifter. The master of masks, the chameleon of human relationships, the shapeshifter is perhaps the most dangerous of all toxic friends because they've elevated deception to an art form. They speak different truths to different audiences, morphing their values, opinions, and personality to match whatever room they occupy. Their loyalty is not a conviction, but a costume they change depending on who holds power, who can offer them the most benefit, who represents the safest alliance at any given moment. They don't have principles, they have strategies. They don't have beliefs, they have angles. To Machiavelli, this was the most insidious type of false friend, not because they openly betrayed, which would at least be honest, but because they calculated every word, every gesture, every expression of support with cold mathematical precision. They wear sincerity like a second skin, but beneath it lies nothing but pure calculation and naked ambition. The shapeshifter studies people the way scientists study specimens, analyzing their weaknesses, cataloging their desires, mapping their vulnerabilities with forensic accuracy. They become whatever they need to be to gain access, trust, and influence. With conservatives, they're traditional. With liberals, they're progressive. With the religious, they're devout. With skeptics, they're questioning. They have no core identity, only adaptive camouflage. Keep them close and you'll never know where they truly stand until you find them standing over you, metaphorically holding the knife. They don't just switch sides when it's convenient, they create sides, playing multiple angles simultaneously, always positioning themselves to land on whichever team emerges victorious. They're the friend who agrees with you completely in private, then subtly undermines your position in group settings. They're the ally who promises support for your project, then mysteriously becomes unavailable when you need them most. They're the confidant who encourages you to share your secrets, then uses those secrets as currency in other relationships. The shapeshifter is particularly dangerous in professional and social climbing scenarios. They understand that information is power, so they position themselves as the hub through which gossip, opportunities, and influence flow. They know everyone's business because they make it their business to know, and they use this knowledge like a master chess player, always thinking several moves ahead. What makes them so effective is their ability to make everyone feel special, chosen, uniquely understood. They have an uncanny talent for reflecting back exactly what each person wants to see, becoming a mirror that shows you your ideal friend. But mirrors have no substance. They only reflect, never create, never contribute anything genuine of their own. When the mask finally slips, when their true nature is revealed, the devastation is absolute. Because they didn't just betray your trust, they betrayed your perception of reality itself. You realize that the person you thought you knew never actually existed, that every interaction was a performance, that every moment of supposed intimacy was calculated manipulation. 4. The comfort keeper. Here's a type that Machiavelli would recognize immediately, the friend who specializes in keeping you comfortable, settled, and tragically small. They present themselves as the voice of reason, the protector of your well-being, the one who truly cares about your happiness and peace of mind. But beneath their seemingly caring exterior lies a simple, devastating mission: to keep you at a level where they can still reach you, still compete with you, still feel superior to you. The comfort keeper operates through sophisticated psychological anchoring. They're the ones who suggest you take a break precisely when you're building momentum, who encourage you to relax a little when you're chasing excellence, who advise you to stop being so intense when you're pursuing greatness with the focus it demands. Their language is always wrapped in concern. You're working too hard. You're becoming obsessed. You're losing yourself. You need balance. Life is about more than just success. But behind these seemingly caring words lies a simple, selfish motivation. They fear your transformation because it exposes their own mediocrity. When you evolve, they feel threatened. When you rise, it forces them to confront everything they haven't accomplished, every opportunity they've wasted, every dream they've abandoned.
Your growth becomes a mirror reflecting their stagnation, and rather than use that reflection as motivation to improve their own lives, they choose the easier path, pulling you down to their level. Machiavelli would warn, "The one who urges you to rest while you build does not want your success. They want your stagnation." They disguise limitation as love, mediocrity as wisdom, and their own fear of inadequacy as concern for your well-being. The comfort keeper has an arsenal of subtle tactics designed to erode your ambition. They question the necessity of your goals, highlight the sacrifices you're making, remind you constantly of what you're missing by pursuing excellence, and paint your dedication as unhealthy obsession. They become the voice of your inner critic, the external manifestation of your own fears and doubts. They know exactly which buttons to push because they've been studying your insecurities, cataloging your moments of weakness, memorizing the arguments that make you second-guess yourself. They're particularly dangerous during your moments of frustration or temporary setback, when your defenses are down and you're vulnerable to their poison. They swoop in with their message of taking it easy, of finding balance, of being realistic about your expectations. They make quitting sound like wisdom, giving up sound like self-care, and settling sound like maturity. The most insidious aspect of the comfort keeper is how they make their
sabotage feel like friendship. They convince you that their attempts to limit your potential are actually expressions of love, that their efforts to keep you small are really about protecting you from disappointment or failure. But true friends don't try to dim your light. They bring fuel to make it burn brighter. Real allies don't encourage you to lower your standards. They challenge you to exceed them. Genuine supporters don't make your ambition feel like a burden. They help you carry it toward victory. 5. The strategic saboteur. The most sophisticated and dangerous of all toxic friends, the strategic saboteur operates with the patience of a chess grandmaster and the precision of a surgeon. Unlike the other types who reveal their nature through obvious patterns of behavior, the strategic saboteur is a master of long-term psychological warfare. They support you publicly while systematically dismantling you privately. They know your vulnerabilities better than you know them yourself. Your insecurities, your triggers, your deepest fears, your hidden shames, and they weaponize this intimate knowledge with devastating effectiveness. The strategic saboteur doesn't attack you directly, which would expose their true nature and risk their carefully cultivated image as your devoted friend. Instead, they offer advice specifically designed to lead you astray, share opportunities that waste your precious time and energy, introduce you to people who will distract you from your mission, and provide guidance that sounds helpful but actually steers you away from your goals. Every suggestion comes beautifully wrapped in concern and helpfulness, but inside each package lies a small poison designed to slow your progress, cloud your judgment, or derail your momentum. They're like a GPS system that's been hacked, giving you directions that sound reasonable but actually lead you further from your destination. Unlike the obvious betrayer who strikes quickly and exposes themselves, the strategic saboteur operates with infinite patience. They understand that destroying you quickly would reveal their hostile intentions, so they opt for slow-motion sabotage, death by 1,000 micro-betrayals, each one small enough to dismiss individually, but collectively devastating in their cumulative effect. They study your patterns, learning when you're most vulnerable to suggestion, when you're most likely to second-guess yourself, when you're most open to external influence. They time their interventions perfectly, offering their toxic advice precisely when you're most likely to accept it. The strategic saboteur also excels at information warfare. They selectively share intelligence that damages your position while withholding information that could help you. They become a filter through which opportunities pass, ensuring that the best ones somehow never reach you, while making sure you're overwhelmed with distractions disguised as possibilities. They're master manipulators of social dynamics, subtly influencing how others perceive you.
They don't directly attack your reputation. Instead, they plant seeds of doubt, ask leading questions that make others question your judgment, and share concerns about your behavior that position them as the loyal friend worried about your well-being. Machiavelli would call them the most dangerous because they combine intimate knowledge with hostile intent. They don't just know your weaknesses, they helped create them. They don't just exploit your vulnerabilities, they cultivated them. They've been playing a long game, positioning themselves not just to witness your downfall, but to orchestrate it while maintaining their cover as your most trusted advisor. The strategic saboteur is particularly devastating because when their true nature is finally revealed, the damage is often irreversible. They've had months or years to poison your relationships, derail your projects, and undermine your confidence. By the time you realize what they've been doing, they've already achieved their objective. They've neutralized you as a threat while positioning themselves to benefit from your downfall. The art of recognition and elimination. Identifying these 5 types of toxic friends requires developing what Machiavelli called the eyes of a prince, the ability to see through deception, read true intentions, and recognize threats disguised as allies. Most people fail this crucial test because they're blinded by their own goodness, projecting their genuine intentions onto others and assuming that friendship is always sincere. But here's the brutal reality. Not everyone who smiles at you wishes you well. Not everyone who offers help actually wants you to succeed. Not everyone who claims to love you actually has your best interests at heart. Some people wear the mask of friendship to get close enough to do maximum damage. The process of elimination isn't cruelty, it's clarity. It's the difference between being a victim of manipulation and being a master of your own destiny. It's the distinction
between allowing others to determine your fate and taking complete control of your environment. Most people fail this test because cutting off a friend feels harsh, unnecessary, extreme. We've been conditioned to believe that loyalty means tolerating toxic behavior, that forgiveness requires accepting repeated abuse, that being a good person means sacrificing ourselves for others' comfort. But this conditioning is exactly what toxic people count on. It's the weakness they exploit to maintain access to their victims. We confuse longevity with loyalty, shared history with shared future, familiar faces with genuine friendship. We assume that because someone has been in our lives for a long time, they deserve to remain there indefinitely. But time alone doesn't create value. Results do. Character does. Mutual benefit and genuine respect do. Machiavelli's world, and yours, doesn't reward sentimentality. It rewards precision, clarity, and the courage to make difficult decisions based on reality rather than wishful thinking. In the game of power and success, there are no participation trophies for keeping toxic people around out of misplaced loyalty. True power doesn't come from how many people surround you. It comes from how few can harm you. It's not about the size of your network, but the quality of your connections. It's not about being popular, but about being protected by those who genuinely want to see you succeed. The surgical process of elimination. When someone reveals their true nature, and they always do eventually, don't waste time asking them to change. Don't negotiate with their toxicity. Don't give them more chances to demonstrate behavior they've already shown you repeatedly. The moment of revelation is the moment of decision, and that decision should be swift, final, and non-negotiable. Cut them off. Not tomorrow, not after one more conversation, not after you've tried to work things out. Immediately. Without drama, without announcement, without the courtesy of explanation. Power is quiet, decisive, and rarely justified to those who don't understand it. Let them feel your absence like a ghost haunting their consciousness. Let your silence remind them of exactly who you are and what they've lost. Your departure should be so complete, so absolute, that they're forced to confront the reality of their own toxicity in the echoing void you leave behind. They will, inevitably, attempt to regain control through guilt, manipulation, and emotional blackmail. They'll call you cold, heartless, unfair, ungrateful. They'll remind you of shared memories, past favors, moments of apparent friendship. They'll paint themselves as the victim of your sudden cruelty, conveniently forgetting their own patterns of toxic behavior. But these reactions are not genuine hurt. They're tactical responses designed to re-establish their access to you. Guilt is simply the leash they couldn't pull tight enough while you were present, so they tug on it harder when you try to walk away. They'll use phrases like, "after everything I've done for you," or "I was just being honest," or "I thought we were friends." But these aren't confessions, they're traps, carefully baited with emotional manipulation designed to make you second-guess your decision and return to their sphere of influence. Machiavelli understood that the true weight of manipulation often hides behind kindness, shared memories, and the illusion of comfort. The moment you begin prioritizing your vision over their feelings, their comfort over their control, they reveal exactly who they've been all along. The inevitable loneliness and its transformation. Once you remove these toxic influences from your life, you will face loneliness. This is inevitable, unavoidable, and absolutely necessary. Most people fail at this stage because they cannot tolerate the temporary discomfort of solitude, so they rush to fill the void with new people who often bring the same problems as the ones they just eliminated. But loneliness, when embraced rather than feared, transforms into solitude. And solitude is where power is forged, where clarity crystallizes, where your authentic self emerges from beneath the layers of other people's expectations and manipulations. In solitude, your thoughts realign without interference. Your focus sharpens without distraction. Your identity reasserts itself without the constant pressure to accommodate others' limitations, insecurities, and hidden agendas. You remember who you were before you started shrinking yourself to fit into other people's comfort zones.
This is where kings are forged, where vision becomes unshakable, where the foundation of true power is laid. It's uncomfortable because growth always is, but it's also liberating in ways you never imagined possible when you were carrying the weight of toxic relationships. When the right people finally arrive, and they will, they won't need explanations for your standards. They won't flinch at your intensity or be threatened by your ambition. They won't require you to dim your light or lower your expectations to make them comfortable. They'll understand your edge because they have one too, and they'll work to sharpen it rather than dull it. But you won't attract these high-quality people until you stop tolerating low-quality relationships. You won't find genuine allies until you stop accepting counterfeit friendship. You won't build a powerful inner circle until you clear out the toxic influences that are taking up space and energy. The ultimate truth about power and relationships. Here's the deepest, most uncomfortable truth about power and relationships. You are not a caretaker of fragile egos. You are not a therapist to the emotionally immature. You are not a rehabilitation center for toxic personalities. You are not a background character in someone else's narrative of victimhood and drama. You are the architect of your own empire, the author of your own story, the director of your own life's movie. And every moment you spend entertaining people who drain your energy, challenge your sanity, or sabotage your progress is a resource stolen from the legacy you were meant to build. Your ambition is sacred, your time is sacred, your energy is sacred, your peace of mind is sacred. These are not commodities to be traded for the temporary comfort of toxic people or the false security of familiar dysfunction. Sacred things must be protected with the same intensity that threats are eliminated. This means saying no without explanation, declining invitations without apology, leaving messages unanswered without guilt, and walking away from situations that don't serve your highest good. Not every connection deserves a clean goodbye. Some relationships simply deserve a door closed quietly and permanently.
You don't need to explain your decision, defend your boundaries, or make them understand your perspective. You just need to act in your own best interest with the calm confidence that comes from absolute clarity about your worth and your goals. The most important moves you'll ever make are the ones no one sees. Not the public victories or dramatic confrontations, but the quiet exits, the strategic withdrawals, the conscious choice to walk alone until you can walk with people who actually deserve your company. Machiavelli never said you had to be liked. He never suggested that popularity was a prerequisite for power. He understood that true strength comes not from accumulating allies, but from eliminating weaknesses. Not from building broad networks, but from cultivating deep loyalty among the worthy few. The path to power is not paved with good intentions, shared laughter, or sentimental attachments. It's built on results, mutual respect, and the unwavering commitment to surround yourself only with people who make you stronger, sharper, and more focused on your ultimate objectives. Cut them off, stand taller, move faster, think clearer, and let them watch from below as you rise to heights they could never reach, not because they lack the ability, but because they lack the character to earn a place beside you on the ascent. In the end, you don't need more people in your life. You need fewer, better ones. You don't need louder support. You need genuine strategic loyalty. And above all, you don't need anyone who makes your future feel heavier than your past. The kingdom you're building has no room for pretenders, parasites, or people who mistake proximity for privilege. Guard it accordingly.